Okay, this is a little demonstration of how to draw a tree stump, or a small piece of tree stump here, in perspective. And when you look at it from the top, it looks round. All the rings look round, and when you move it like this, the circle becomes an oval. And the more we move it, the more narrow the oval becomes. If you finally move it like this, where you can't see the top, it's just a straight line. So there's a narrow oval, a bigger oval, and finally back to a circle. Well, we want to draw it about like this. So I'm going to make kind of a medium-sized oval. Something like this. Not too narrow, not too wide. Just about like this. Okay. Now we need to draw those rings on the inside. So let's find the center here. It's called the pith. And there it is right there, the center. It's where it started growing the first year. It's the original stem. Now we need to divide this. Let's put in 5 rings. We need to divide this space evenly. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then this space. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then we need to divide this space 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. They have to be much further apart, don't they? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And these will be your guidelines for the ellipses that are going to be the rings. Just use those. There's 1 ring. Second ring. And if your rings aren't perfect, that's okay, because sometimes they're a little bit wobbly in trees too. Sometimes something kind of weird happens when they're growing. They're not perfectly round. Okay, and this one. Now remember, these are created by the xylem and the phloem. The phloem's on the outside. The phloem is always on the outside, sort of. That's what creates the bark. And the xylem cells are towards the inside. So when the tree gets this big, all these rings are what's left of the xylem cells from last year and the year before that, and all the way back. Okay, that's why we draw in pencil, because we can kind of adjust and erase at the end there. Okay, and then if you want to erase your guidelines, your little guideline things there a little bit, you can. All right, and you can just kind of adjust these, and like some of them maybe had a really good growth here, and this line is a lot darker. The bigger, darker rings indicate periods of quick growth. Big rings, and the small rings are where it didn't grow so much. Okay. Alright, now let's do the sides going down. As you can see, they go straight down. Okay. So when you make this bottom line, you want to make it exactly the same curve as this line up here. Exactly the same shape, parallel to each other, down here. Now we need to make this look like bark. So some bark is really quite rough. This one is smooth on here, but some's rough. I'm going to make my bark look a little rougher. So I'm going to start by making a lumpy outline around here. Kind of random ins and outs. Okay, and then everywhere where it goes in, here, juts in a little bit, I'm going to imagine that's a place where there's a dent, where it goes in, where there's an in part to the bark like that. Okay, it's kind of shadowy in there. And as you can see from our real bark, these chunks have all kinds of goofy shapes. So you can't go wrong here. You can make all kinds of goofy shapes here. Except we're going to keep the spaces there in between dark. It's shadowy. Got a little crooked along there. Like I said, you can't go wrong here because your bark can look different from anyone else's. Okay, on the bottom, then we also need to have it kind of go in. Where you have a shadowy place there, make it go in. And you don't have to follow along and do exactly what I'm doing. You can just look at your own paper and draw whatever you want here. Now I'm going to make mine look a little bit curved. I'm going to pretend the light is coming like this, hitting it from here. So these sides are going to kind of be shadowed a little bit. So I'm going to shadow this side a little bit, which means I may have to darken up my other lines. My shadow lines have to be even darker. And over here, same thing. This side a little bit darker overall, which means I may have to darken my shadow lines even a little more. Okay, looks like some rough bark. Alrighty, and then on the top here, the edge of the bark, you can see there's the actual bark around here is darker than the rings. So let's darken this up on the back there. So it looks like the ring of bark around the outside. Okay. Now if you want to add any artistic touches to yours, you want to put a little insect curling up on it or put some little insect holes somewhere, you can do that. It's up to you. Or if you would like to have a real challenge, you can get an actual piece of tree stump and try to draw these. This is difficult, but you could actually use a real tree and try to imitate these actual shapes. But as you can see, even if you don't do that, you can get a pretty good looking tree stump just out of your imagination.